Hello gamers, today I am checking out another Star Wars game. As I have mentioned many times before, Star Wars games typically never miss the mark. I cannot think of a single bad Star Wars game, some of them even being classed as the best games in their category. I mean, apart from the Classic Collection, which I have personally berated as bad, but that's a port and the originals are good, so it's alright. However, anyways, during the recent Steam sale, I picked up the Ultimate Star Wars Collection, which is basically a collection of every Star Wars game available on Steam, I think, to get those couple Star Wars games that I haven't played or checked out before. And today we're checking out one of them, that being Star Wars The Clone Wars Republic Heroes. A game that takes place within the Star Wars The Clone Wars universe, most likely taking part at the end of Season 1 after the Ryloth arc. I knew this game was going to be interesting going into it, as it is considered one of the worst Star Wars games. I even did something I never really do before playing a game, and that is checking out what the critics thought of the game. Now, I mainly don't do this. I can often have my mind swayed one way or another after reading a review for a game sometimes, because I mean, I'm human, it happens. But I still decided to check out the reviews for this game, as once again I'd heard through the grapevine that it is the worst Star Wars game ever made. And I'm like, well, I have to see what people are saying about it. And I mean, reviewers were not nice to this game. And I mean, they shouldn't be. Not every game can be a 7 out of 10. IGN. But could it really be as bad as everyone has said? Well, there is only one way to find out, and that is to play it myself. I'll quickly add some reviews on screen now for you guys, so you guys can get a sort of idea of what the critics and other reviewers were saying at the time of this game's release. And of course, like always, we're going to start off with the game's graphics, which I personally don't think they are that bad. One review said that this game had awful graphics, but I personally don't know about that one. The game did come out way back in the year of 2009, which is like, Jesus Christ, it's over 15 years ago. That makes me feel old. I mean, I am old, but it makes me feel extra old. And compared to the Clone Wars cartoon we were getting at the time, the episodes of Season 1, I mean, it's clearly a step down from the TV show, but it's not as bad as it could have been, for sure. I've definitely played worse looking games that came out far more recenter than this game. And where this game may lack in graphics, it makes up for with voice acting.
This isn't the time for one of your hunches.
You taught me to trust in the Force, Master.
The Force, yes, but you just as often seem to rely on luck.
Is there a difference?
Yes. In my experience, one exists and the other does not.
I'm pretty sure the game retains most of the cast from the TV show, and no one really feels like they are phoning in the performance. Their performances sound just like watching an early episode of the Clone Wars. And voice acting can be even better with the right storyline, as the story also needs to live up to the work that the actors are putting in, and this spot would be a perfect time to transition to talk about the story. However, I didn't structure this video as well as I would have liked to, and there are still two more topics that I badly want to talk about before moving on to the story. And the first one is very important to a Star Wars game, and that is the combat. The combat in this game is quite frankly not very good. It has moments like slashing down fields of clankers with one swift swipe of your saber, but most of it can be pretty painful at times. For example, there are some droids that can go invisible, and that's something they can toggle, so you can go invisible and visible. So they become visible to you on the complete opposite side of the platform you're on. So you run over to them. By the time you get over to them, you go to swing your saber, but since the game has no meaningful lock-on of any kind, you swing the complete opposite direction from the droid, and then the droid just goes invisible again. However, I did find a way to make this easier later on in the game, and that is to use your heavy force attack on the droid, which would stun them long enough for you to walk over and hit them. That is, if your force attack doesn't completely miss and go the opposite way. And then there are these segments where you play as clones, and let's just say the blaster play is very hit or miss in this game, with most shots missing. There isn't very any way to precisely aim. It is very much the definition of spray and pray. On the topic of praying, you'll be doing a lot of that during the game's platforming sections, as this game is part 3D platformer, and the platforming is a lot of this game, and is by far the worst part of the game. But that could also just be me, as I am awful at these 3D platformers. The only game I like that I've been good at that is a platformer would be Stray. Check out link to video here. But from what I have read, the platforming in this game is a very large problem, and the fact that the camera never gives you the right angle to tell if you are going to make a jump or not, well, you will spend a lot more time missing jumps than you do making jumps. However, this game does have no death penalty, that you just respawn like 5 feet away. There's no penalty at all for dying. Very much a kid's game in that aspect, but it does make the platforming a lot more bearable. However, now it is time to finally talk about the story. Now, you may be able to imagine counting Star Wars takes place in a universe far away. This game's story takes place in many locations, both planets and space stations. The game starts off with Anakin, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and the 501st on Ryloth after the battle for Ryloth. Obi-Wan, however, leaving to a space station. This is where the game's sort of branching narratives start to take part, as there are multiple stories told at once within the game. But for now, we will stay on Ryloth with Ahsoka and Anakin, spending most of the time cleaning up large holdups of droids along with some clones. Playing one segment on Ryloth as a shiny new clone, working to clear large hideouts of droids. After a couple days on Ryloth, Captain Rex and another member of the 501st are out on patrol at night when they are captured by an unknown person. But we will return to that a little bit later, as we are now on the mining space station with Obi-Wan, who has met up with Master Plo Koon. As the station is attacked by droids, Obi-Wan and Plo Koon making their way to the shields in an attempt to raise them to protect the station, whilst Commander Cody is escorting a soft-shelled clone, more of a technician clone compared to a battle-ready clone, through the station, when they need to rush to the escape pods, as Obi-Wan and Plo have gotten into a battle with, and I'm probably saying this wrong, Kai Tasker, who I will refer to as Teska. Teska, that's what I'm going to say, not Tasker. Teska. Yes, I'll refer to him as Teska, as I believe that is correct. He is a person who I think is a member of the Techno Union, if that's a real thing from the TV show and I haven't just made it up. I haven't looked at it and it just sounds right to me. Our fight ends with the station being mortally damaged, with all clones escaping, apart from the soft shell, who has to stay behind to launch the pods, as the automatic launching of the escape pods is unfortunately broken. However, we are now on a ice planet that is neither Hoth or Ilum. I don't remember the name of it, and it's not very important to the story. What is important, however, is on the planet there is a group of clones and Master Aluma and Elias Akira, as they are investigating a crashed separatist ship that has large swaths of the destroyed ship floating in midair, defying gravity. They find out that the ship was transporting some kind of unknown weapon that was stolen right before the crash by an unknown person or parties. Back on Ryloth, however, Anakin and Snips are still making their way around the planet, trying to use the Force to locate Rex. However, this time it's not so easy, as they can also sense that something has happened to Obi-Wan. However, all the long-range communications are currently being actively blocked by someone or something. When we, the player, then switch to Rex, who, as it turns out, has been taken by the one and only cool hat wearing Cad Bane, who's also the one who has come into possession of the weapon talked about from the previous crashed Separatist ship, with Bane forcing Rex and the other clone to help him as they are wearing explosive cuffs on them. After fighting waves of droids, Anakin and Ahsoka show up at the end, helping Cad as well. They want the weapon for themselves, as they can't have the Separatists have it, and they definitely can't let Cad Bane end up with it. After arriving at Cad Bane's ship, somehow Teska is there, using his suit most likely to escape the station. After a fight with our fellow Jedi and Rex, he is luckily enough able to escape with the weapon. But how did he find out where the weapon is? Well, to find that out, we are then transported back to the space station, which as turns out, the explosion didn't end up damaging as much as the station as first thought. However, there is still no contact from Obi-Wan or Plo Koon, so Masters Windu and Fisto have been sent to find them. After arriving on the station, they run into the soft-shelled clone who stayed back to launch the escape pods. This time, having him hack into the station in an attempt to find out where Obi-Wan and Plo Koon are. However, someone was blocking him and trying to revoke his access. So they make their way to where it says this person is, the communications room. On the way there, the group of clones run into a lightsaberless Obi-Wan and Plo, however blocked by a force field. Luckily the clones, however, had found their lightsabers previously, so they all make a plan to rendezvous in the communications room with a very hard segment where you play as Obi-Wan without any weapons and you have to solely use the force. That was the only time in this game, apart from trying to make jumps, where I found it genuinely a bit difficult, but that's sort of good difficult, not bad difficult. Like the jumps are bad difficult, that's just annoying and just makes you want to go rah and smash something. This I enjoyed the challenge of. However, after that segment, we all end up in the communications room, where it was found out that Teska was the person who was using the comms room to lock on to the location of the weapon. Able to restore comms to the sector, they then re-establish contact with Anakin, and then, as a group, receive a message from Padme that she has found a large separatist facility in the Naboo sector, and that is where the gravity weapon was taken. So off they all go. So the whole gang has gone to attack this base and try to retrieve the weapon and save Padme. And after a bit of a distraction by Rex and Cody, Anakin and Obi-Wan are able to slip into the base undetected, and after some effort are able to take down the base's force fields, allowing Mace Windu and Ahsoka, along with a large battalion of clones, to start attacking the base from above. After entering the base, Anakin and Ahsoka are tasked with finding the bomb and Padme, where Obi-Wan and Windu are tasked with going to the landing pad that Rex and Cody had secured before. And after getting to the landing pad, they are then attacked by the one and only Count Dooku, engaging in combat as of course Count Dooku did not want to surrender. During their fight with Dooku, the landing pad collapses, with Windu and Obi-Wan being saved by Rex, R2 and Cody in the Twilight ship, and Dooku being saved by Ventress. After Sky Guy and Snips find Padme, who's been held hostage by the one and only Teska, Anakin then sends Padme off to try to disarm the bomb by pressing some buttons on a box he walked past on the way in there, whilst the dynamic duo attack Teska, which this will be the third time that you have attacked him, but also by far the hardest time you have to fight him. Not because the fight is harder than any other, but because the final stage, in order to fight him, you need to jump onto one of those aforementioned visible droids. And the jump is set up so you can never quite tell if you're going to make the jump or not. So this is one of the game's worst segments by far, as there is a jump that you can't tell if you're going to make it, and by the time you run around the thin beam you are on to get to the droid you need to jump on to send it to attack him, mid-air whilst you're making the jump, the droid will most likely disappear, sending you plummeting to your death. And this is when, once again, it was very lucky there was no punishment for death, or else I would have failed the game countless times on this segment. However, after missing about 1,000 jumps and making the 6 you need to defeat Teska for one final time, Anakin and Ahsoka then meet up with Padme as they quickly flee the base right before it blows up, rendezvousing with the Twilight just in time to escape. So this has been the game. It took me about 5 hours to complete. However, Steam says I have 80 hours played in the game. And well, that's because Star Wars The Clone Wars Republic Heroes, you cannot save it unless you are signed into your Xbox Games with Windows Live account. And well, I didn't want to sign up or sign in at first. So I was just like, I'll just keep the game running. And then it soft locked at one point, and then it crashed the time after that. Both times I was a significant amount into the game. So then I finally made it so I could save the game. But that's not much to do with the review. That's just because I didn't want to sign into my Microsoft account. Because, well, Sony tried to make me do it for Helldivers. I'm not doing it for Star Wars, The Clone Wars, Republic Heroes. But at the end of the day, I feel this game may have been a bit harshly reviewed. It is nowhere near as bad as they said it was in the reviews. And I may have not described it with the most inquisitive detail I could. But the story is by far good enough in my mind to be a part of the TV show. Like, if this was maybe a 3-part story arc, I think it would have been quite a good one. But anyways, this is just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed watching this video, make sure to subscribe so you can catch the next Star Wars or non-Star Wars related video.